1 o'clock, so I would
That's what I heard.
like to get started with this roundtable. Thank you for attending. I'd like to thank Lois Lundeen and Bacchus for hosting, for being such wonderful and helpful partners with all of us on many of these issues, and thank you to Darcy at KCC TV for making the time. I'd also like to thank Administrator Bergstrom, her staff, and Chief Manassa for working to organize this event. At this time, if we'd like to go around the table and offer introductions, I think that would be a good place to start.
Okay, I'm Pete Kaler, City Councilor, International Falls.
I beat Jason Schoblum, Cooching County Commissioner, District 4.
Ricky Roach, Cooch County Commissioner, District 2.
I'm Jenna Gilo. I'm the Director of the Emergency Department.
Mary Gay Tate, Chief Nursing Officer, Rainy Lake Medical Center.
Dennis Wagner, Mayor of Rainier.
Todd Cologne, City Rainier Councilman.
Thank you. And do we have representatives from St. Louis here this afternoon? I think there is, if you can hear us. We wanted to call this roundtable about the ambulance service, ultimately to discuss the direction and level of service that may be available because of cost issues with providing the service. As many of you are aware, the City of International Falls is struggling with continuing the vital service for multiple reasons. The city's incurred staggering financial loss running the service. Currently, the city is offering paramedic-based advanced life support service to a 989 square mile area. The employees currently making the service happen are kind, hardworking, dedicated, and concerned about the future of the service and their jobs. I've heard from a cross-section of residents across this vast primary service area and continue to hear the same thing. Residents want to continue this service. Our city has reached an inflection point with the operation of the service. To date, we've incurred over $2 million in debt operating over the past 10 years or more. The debt to fund this service has come from city general fund taxpayer reserves, which at the end of the year stood at approximately $1.9 million citywide, or 23.7%. This year will likely include another staggering operating loss of our service, possibly $500,000 or more. In addition, the city will need to buy at least one new ambulance, potentially more depending on conditions, to continue operating. These ambulances are approximately $275,000 each. The result will be another precipitous drop in City of International Falls taxpayer reserves. The City of International Falls is running on empty and must make decisions regarding the continuation and viability of the service. Over the past few months, the International Falls City Council has held a series of meetings and group discussions, primarily with Coochiching County, which we're thankful for, on the future of the service. As I represent the city in my mayoral capacity, I'm not here to cause dissension or rehash past decisions or events. We're here to look for solutions. If we're unable to do so, the city must consider the following options: to reduce the level of service to basic life support for the entire primary service area, or exit the service entirely at the end of 2026. I'm here today to have this roundtable to ask for your consideration and discussion in forming an equitable and important EMS special taxing district to continue providing advanced life support service to our region. It's unlike me to read from a script, but today I found it quite fitting. So thank you all for attending, and that's what we're here for. Counselor, did I
Yeah,
What
I
it
think
is.
you've covered our views and ideas and what we think to do to move, what we need to do to move forward.
Here, if you want to pass those around, please. The letter that we're passing around is from the Office of Emergency Management Services that describes the service that we currently provide as a city under our license, or probably better known as our certificate, and what those thank you, Todd, what those requirements are and the terms of the license through today. I know we've had some late arrivals. If you'd like, there's coffee, donuts, refreshments for everyone. Thank you. Did we miss anyone that is online that raised their hand?
Yes, the St. Louis County representative is on the bottom. He could not hear initially, so I think the mic went offline, but I confirm that both Joan and Mr. Fritzinger are able to hear now.
Thank you.
I got one little question. I think you said there was a couple options, one a BLS system or two a taxing district. Option 3 was actually an increase in city taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear that one, but that would, if you decide to choose it, you'd have to increase the city. What would be the increase in the city taxes? I'm a property owner in the city of International Falls. That's why I'm asking that question, because that's obviously an option.
Right. And that is a viable option. This year, where we set our preliminary levy as a city, the way it's 20% preliminary levy increase. The way we laid it out, subject to change, was that a 10% increase, I believe, would be about $414,000. And the service is a business. We have a budget. We know what the receipts are estimated. Whether that would cover all the costs or we would run a little surplus, that could be. But it would be fairly close.
A 10% increase in taxes, city taxes.
Yes.
Are you going to institute that anyway?
I wouldn't vote for that.
Okay.
And that's just, that's just for the ambulance part, the 10%. Not
Yeah,
the total.
but that's what you'd have to, I mean, that was the third option, you know.
Yeah,
You go to
extra,
BLS, obviously there's a decrease in cost. To keep it the way it is, you could form a district that would cover some of the costs, if not all of them, the overruns, let's say. Or an increased 10% tax would basically cover all the overruns you experience about maybe it was 300, 350, 400, whatever. That would cover the overruns, so it kind of break.
It could.
Yeah, I mean, who knows exactly your cost, depends on how much income you get from the services you got and stuff, but
Yes.
it's a figure and it's relatively close.
And that's a number as well that would be net of capital purchases.
So that would be a pretty big burden on all the taxpayers of International Falls, another 10% property tax.
Yes.
What is your levy now on what is your tax rate now on the property?
Well, our total levy is right around $4 million.
What's the percentage of what's your tax? Like in Rainier, we're 0.36. What's your?
That's a question I would have to.
Well, currently for 2024, what we raised, our levy was 5.8
Yeah.
that we raised for this.
Oh, that's the dollar. That's the dollar amount, though. Is it like?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head on that.
Our property tax levy increase in 2024, it would have been 5.81%, so it's 6% of 4 million,
It
probably
was,
220.
No, I mean, I've seen a steady increase in, but I guess that's city taxes, I guess, a whole different issue. As I'm saying, any tax is going to be a burden, whether it's a city tax, a district tax, anything, so, that. So, what is your feelings about I don't know, what, is there a format, is there
It's
an
open.
agenda, or it's just open?
I'm sorry, I have some talking points, but it's open discussion. The service that we currently have serves everyone at the table, including St. Louis, and I know everyone has their own concerns.
I do have a question. In 2026, it says the option to discontinue the service altogether. Then what happens? Somebody else takes the service, state provides it, what happens? I mean, you choose not to license up again.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What is the question? What happens?
The answer that we have received is that from OEMS, when something like that occurs, generally the state board will call a meeting and figure out what the response times of adjoining services would be and see if they can come up with some type of service plan to create a minimum of service. Now, where we're at,
Yeah, it'd be
with
tough.
Canada on the north, we have the Little Fork District, the Lake of the Woods District, or they're,
St. Louis County.
yes.
Yeah. And we're supplying them already because they're so far. And if they find out it's too far, I mean, I think we all agree it probably is too far for, some kind of rescue from Badet. So what did they express then? What would be option, or what would they demand, or?
We asked them many specifics as we go through this challenge of what that would look like, and this was the response that we received from them.
That's just it, okay.
I think likely is what's happened in other PSAs, I believe in southwest Minnesota, that have had to, for lack of a better term, get out or give up their service was due to staffing, not necessarily money, that they've gone either unprotected or they have to wait for ultra-long response times.
Well, the reason I'm asking the question, because it's been like this for 10 years. If nothing happens, that's a strong possibility that will happen. You might not have the ability to continue the service, financially or anything else. So that's a real possibility.
Yeah.
So if that is the possibility, and we don't have an ambulance service, then what, that's why I'm saying we don't know what the option would be then. Like you said, checking the services, how far from Virginia or how far from Badet or something, that's not a good option. I don't think the state wouldn't disagree with that, but I don't know what they would demand, or whether they would say they provide an emergency fund, or I'm just kind of curious what would happen. If we don't do something, that's a strong possibility.
Yes.
Yes.
A real possibility.
Yeah.
So I would like to know what would be the state's resolve to that if we come to an impasse that we can't do it or don't decide not to do it. I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, they should be able to tell you that. I mean, whether, I don't know, maybe they can't.
I believe it. I mean, I understand that the discussion gets a little out there, but that's why we're analyzing, and I think that the option, the way that our understanding is that no service or very little of it. Meaning, if there's a 911 call, how that system works, does OR get dispatched? Or to the southern part of the PSA, or does Lake of the Woods come? I think that that's what they would try and at least be able to give a response time or an estimate. If we asked, well, what does the future look like?
Yeah, I don't think anybody here would want, I mean, I can understand a BLS system possible, and that would be, ALS, BLS, but no service. I don't think that's an acceptable option from anybody. Obviously Little Fork has been getting by with a BLS, so you can't say it don't work, but no system, I don't think any of us want to run that risk. And so that's why I'm bringing that point up, because I didn't know if in that case they install a mandatory thing or something and say everybody has to pay or whatever that is. I didn't know what the option is. I thought maybe we would know. So I don't know if we'll end up with that. Hopefully we'll never get there. But I would like to know if there's a solution out there.
Yeah.
That's all, or an option. That's all.
Jason, when you came to Rainier and talked to us, has anything moved forward with that?
Yeah, we had a board motion here last Tuesday before, to move forward and direct the county administrator and county attorney, county auditor to draft a language to enter into a joint powers agreement with the city of Rainier and potentially the county of St. Louis, as well as drafting a separate contract that would be acceptable to the city, obviously, for what was within the contract that we potentially would agree on. Which what we discussed is purchasing equipment, stocking the ambulance, things like that, as a hard contribution to the service to hopefully ease the financial burden overall and over the long term, while committing to a certain level of funding, obviously, that would be controlled by a board that would be appointed throughout the service area that would be designated. Then we would move forward with that potential, and then obviously the city would have to agree to that. We don't today have our county attorney on. I think we do have our county auditor treasurer on. And she's been kind of reading up on some of the language and what we can and cannot do, as well as Adam Coe, and like I say, the county attorney has kind of given us guidance with that and kind of given us the green light on that, actually. So board motion passed unanimously, and then we're just it's just timing. It's going to take time to draft it, look at it. We don't. There's lots of details, obviously, to discuss.
And that's that is to form a district. Is that what we're talking about? The form a district. I think there's multiple questions out there, but the one is to form a district. Okay. Two, but how would the district be funded? I would be dead set against any property tax because that's so unfair. And so I had a different suggestion. I've come up with a different idea. I did ask the county to research that and see if you guys get creative. From what I heard, the only way the county could do it is put it against the property taxes of the property inside the district, which to me is not acceptable. It's way too unfair. I wouldn't go along with it at all. That's my own personal opinion. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I canvassed enough people that think I'm right on this one. But I do have a suggestion on how you would fund a district. Why wouldn't the county seek permission from the state to have a 1% sales tax for the county? Now, that's not fair for Little Fork because they got their own district. Why the hell should they be paying? But there's X amount of county residents in the district. Let's just say 50-50, okay? So then the money that would be collected from this sales tax, and that includes tourists and everything else, half of that money would go to fund the district. Because I know the city of International Falls, with their 1% tax, is collecting maybe $1 million. Is that a rough number? Okay, $1 million. Fine. Great. There's no problem paying that tax, but everybody's paying it. That includes renters, tourists, because ambulances haul people. They don't haul freaking property. So I sure the hell don't want to pay, if I got 4 pieces of property, and when you nail it all down, you can say there might be 9,000 pieces of property that you could tax here, but at the end of the day, there's probably how many people are really paying that tax. It's like the school tax is $150 a household. Well, I'm paying $3,000. I don't know where the hell the $150 come from. That's if everybody paid. Well, obviously renters don't pay, tourists don't pay, and those are the people that would be being hauled in the ambulance, same as I would be. So that would be a suggestion. You have to get permission from the state, and then you just prorate. I don't know how many, you might have an idea how many people are in the county, Rainier's in the county, the city's in the county, how many paper makers, how far it goes. St. Louis County, from what I understand, offered to extend some help to us, which is fine. They're not in our county, so I don't know how you could do that. But the sales tax collected could be prorated for the amount of people in our county, so that Little Fork ain't getting charged. The people that don't belong to our Amber district aren't getting charged, or they get used to that sales tax. Whether it's to buy them a new road or whatever it is, the county coffers would have more money to do at least half of it. Let's just say half. That number, somebody has that number, how many people are in our district and how many aren't. But the remainder would be for infrastructure or whatever you want it for. The county would have control of the funds, the other half, or the other percentage, and they allot it to the sewer or to the ambulance district. That way everybody's paying.
Chief Manassa had a question. I saw him.
I think to take on to Mayor Wagner's comment, we currently have a EMS, not an EMS district, but we have a taxing district that services the Little Fork ambulance. We have a taxing district that services the Black Duck ambulance. So if you do countywide taxing district, to your point, or sales tax, if you essentially maybe a strong word, did away with the current taxing district for Little Fork and the current taxing district for Black Duck, if that all went into one fund and then that fund was managed by a board that would evenly distribute it between the three entities, then that would be equal taxation across the members of the county, I think, to your point.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the people that aren't using our district aren't paying for it. And that's the same reason I have an issue with the property tax paying for it. Because the people that may be using the ambulance may not be paying for it, for say a renter. And I'm not just picking on renters, but I'm looking after all the multiple property owners, and the property owners, why are they paying for everything again? And again, I'll bring that up, is that at LGA was given to the city for property tax relief. And here we're talking about charging the county, charging the property tax people to pay for it. No, you've been given the money for property tax relief. Now I understand there's a deficit. I'm willing to help with the deficit, but everybody should help. And that's my feeling. And I if a person don't want to help to pay for it, then maybe he don't want to get in the ambulance. You know what I mean? Everybody that goes to a McDonald's and buys a hamburger, he's paying his share, whether he's a renter or anything else. So I don't think it's a user tax. It's simple as that. But everybody that uses it should be paying. Period.
Yeah, I think our numbers are for our 0.5% wheelage tax, road tax that the county has implemented here a few years back is around $850,000 for a 0.5% countywide. That's what we were drawing. Now, of course, that may fluctuate, obviously, with the economy here and there, but that's kind of what we were drawing in. That goes into our, wheelage tax for county roads and maintenance and things like that. So,
I'm not a proponent of raising taxes by any means. I'm a large property owner in the county, and Rainier's held its tax base straight. It's the same as it was 12 years ago, and we're proud of that. But I also understand the deficit that the city's in. And so what's your solution? You got to come up with some money. I mean, that's the end of the deal here. You could say it's an ambulance tax, the ambulance deficit. Hell, it's a city budget issue here. Whether they use it for cops or whether they use it for administration or whether they use it for ambulance, there's a city deficit here. And I pay taxes in this city. I understand that. So I'm willing, if we have to have a tax, I just assume it not be on property. I just assume put it as a user's tax. And I think you were the one that come say, gee, we'd like to have $50 from everybody in the county. Well, that's one way of getting, that's as equal as you can get. So I could support something like that as a taxpayer of International Falls. I'm left with two, one of the choices, the third choice, you raise the property tax in International Falls, I'm paying anyway. But again, it's just straight property people. Why aren't the other people paying?
Well, there may be some latitude to be able to do something like that, and I think, together with the entities involved, we maybe have some leverage to do that. I think honestly, I think what the state's looking for is a model, because there's no models out there to support things like this right now. And it's not just here, it's not just in this area, it's in different parts of the state, different parts of other states, different parts of the country, especially in the rural areas where there's got to be a mechanism that's fair and equitable. And I don't disagree, because I see, there's lots of folks that come in and out of here in the summer, use our area, enjoy our area, spend money in our area, and they do use our services, and they do contribute to our tax base, and as they should. And I think it's a great idea to do that if it's absolutely possible.
Well, absolutely. Nobody's going to refuse if there's an auto accident. The guy's from Iowa, you're not going to give him a ride to the hospital because he hasn't paid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. Yeah. But also, and I talked to a fellow that's very up on this. He says, if you propose this taxing district, the state has to approve it. But it gives you some leverage. They may come up with a mechanism to pay for your ambulance shortfall and not incur another tax. What I'm talking about, another sales tax. They say, you know what? Look, they're going to have to raise this tax for everybody. Why don't we? And I talked quite a bit with Hochschild about trying to set up a fund, and I'm trying to help them figure out a mechanism where there's a formula that we would get more money. And so this would be another leverage point that the state would say, look, they have to go and raise all these taxes because they need ambulance service. So it may be it is a good point that we may not even have to do this. Again, the county would have more dollars in their funds for roads, bridges, for whatever the county would use it for on the other. Hey, anybody know what the percentage of people in the county, that in the district that are in the county, are half the residents in our ambulance district, in our ambulance, half the, North Home people aren't, Little Fork people aren't. How many people, probably even more than half, lie in the district?
I want to go back to something to clarify, because you talked about what I call taxing district aid. I had met with Senator Hochschild yesterday. So right now, from time to time, as the state's able to allocate funds, the city as an ambulance certificate holder receives aid, one-time aid, as it's available. It's come in different amounts. I think it was, the biggest we've received was around $250,000, maybe $214,000.
Okay.
We're a one municipality that owns the certificate. As the state appropriates more aid, the thought is they're going to incentivize giving that aid to certificate holders that are owned collaboratively by a taxing district to force the parties to the table. And so one of the issues, if it got this bad, Lord willing, I don't know that we would be able to stay in it. But if we end up holding the certificate and lose the little bit of aid that we're already getting, then that magnifies the problem. So I know you had another question, but we just discussed that yesterday. I don't know that we've received any official correspondence on that, but certainly from Representative Scrubba and Senator Hochschild, that's the direction that this is going to take if the state starts anteing up, so to speak, to try and deficit fund these shortfalls from somewhere else other than locally born.
My point is, you don't have to, if the county would institute a 1% sales tax, There's no district involved in anything. That's just Cooch County putting the sales tax on. And if in their good heart, they decide to give, you know, again, the percentage to the city, that would be the crux of it. There's no district, there's no nothing. It's just Cooch County wanting the sales tax, just like International Falls wanted the sales tax, and they got it.
And if that's an option, the county needs to take the certificate and contract for service, whether it's from us
Why?
or North
Why
Memorial.
can't they just make a donation?
We don't have to be in the business. That's the crux where this has gone on so long. We're not.
But why wouldn't you be in the business if all of a sudden, you continue the way you are and you got a $300,000 deficit. All of a sudden, the county picks up $1 million in sales tax and 50% of the people are in the district. Well, why don't we take 50% of that and just give it to International Falls as a goodwill? And that covers your shortfall. You still got your certificate. You're still in business. The county is just helping you guys out, just like we want to help you out. No district, nothing changed. You guys stay where you are. They're just covering your shortfall with a donation that is paid for by the sales tax. I mean, you got to trust that you get along with the county so that they keep giving you half. But that's all we're here for. We're all in the same boat here. We wanted that thing to continue, and then you're just short money.
And the leverage and the alleged rumors of the mismanagement of the service, which I don't have any evidence or knowledge of. Every time the city takes a step forward, it will forever be our problem and our fault. And everybody's had their turn. The hospital had the certificate. We had a pretty good deal going. The nurses did transfers. They negotiated out of their contract. How we got to where we were was trying to do this out of goodwill. We're in trying to provide that service to our community, and that's what we hear in and outside of city limits. We hear that throughout the district. I understand we have to pay for it. But the reality is the city of International Falls does not have to provide the service. A board can provide the service. Rainier could provide the service.
As of 2026.
Correct. And that's what we're here to convey is we want to stay in the service. We know we need the service. We've already decided it's crazy that we can't have, the ramifications of no service are absurd. But the city has to take a step forward here with that. And we know that if we're in a taxing district or we're out of the taxing district, we still have to come up with the money in our levy, whether we raise taxes or cut other services to fund our portion of the ambulance, that we have to start doing that.
Boy, there must be a disconnect here. Because all I can see is if the county put on a 1% sales tax and received X amount of money, and they got an agreement that they're going to give half this money for a shortfall to the city, and they can even write that down, that half this taxing money from this sales tax money is going to be given to the city of International Falls for shortfall, that covers your shortfall. And if you can't handle it, well, maybe you shouldn't get it. I mean, that covers your shortfall. If you keep getting worse, well, maybe you should change management or should change something. But right now, the way you are, it looks like it's pretty consistent. It's doing just about what the same every year, other than the interest and everything, but that'll be eliminated as you start going the other way. But I can't see why you wouldn't want to continue it. Let's put it this way, someone's going to have to continue it.
Right.
You're already doing it. You already got the people. You already got the thing. Why wouldn't you continue it and see if this wouldn't work? You get a 2-year license. If it don't work, well, then you abandon it 2 years from now. The county still got their sales tax, and they can decide what they want to do with it. Since you guys aren't in the ambulance business, you wouldn't get any of it then. Okay.
Oh, you had a question.
Just a statement. We looked into the local option sales tax option. Under the current rules, we cannot fund an ambulance through a sales tax. It needs to be for a specific capital project, and so it needs to be exclusive. There needs to be an end date. Once you collect that amount of money, then that tax is supposed to drop off. So I don't know that anybody's using that across the state. And we looked into all these options, flat fee models, subordinate service districts. You know, the direction we got was the statute that refers to the taxing district is our vehicle. Now, I know it's not popular to do it on property tax, but that's the vehicle that we have before us as we understand it. So without any special legislation or changes around those rules, that would be the option to raise funds to help with the deficit.
So there's a difference between the city's sales tax, use of their sales tax and your sales tax?
Well, our
Yes.
highway sales tax, we have to submit projects, specific projects with amounts to be able to continue to that 0.5%. I assume the city
Yeah.
sales tax is the same way.
It's the same,
They have to have specific projects that equal that 1% collection to continue to collect that. So I don't see a vehicle.
Well, that shouldn't be too big of a problem if you can't give a $500,000 worth, it's just using $500,000 or 300, pick the number. If you can't give the city of Cooch County a list of these projects and the county decides to pay for them, use your other money to pay for the ambulance.
Adam, thank you. The last winter, when I was in St. Paul, I had a lengthy discussion with Senator Hochschild, who's on the tax committee, about sales tax options to fund the service. In a very broad sense, not even any of us, just can that be done? His answer was consistent with yours. The other thing is that the county has, I believe, the ability, because North Memorial, who's a private service that has entered into some markets for contract, has created a situation using a state statute in which the primary service area, that's 1,000 square miles, for lack of a better term, becomes a subordinate service district. I'm not an administrator or an attorney, but the county has taken the certificate, contracted the service to whoever. It could be the hospital, could be us, could be North, could be Bemidji. And then the county has the ability to tax everybody in the district. Now, I don't know in what fashion that taxation occurs, but that's been a model. So those are some other options that we've investigated, right or wrong. So, and one of my fears is that if for some reason we talk about the end of next year, if the city takes that step, does the county end up with it because they're a higher government tier? I don't know that. But these are all things that we've considered is, what does that look like? Because if we get out, which isn't our goal, Rainier, I know that both of you aren't going to be standing there wanting to run an ambulance. And I don't think that the hospital or the county will either. So I go back to, that's why we're here.
Well, I just certainly can't believe that if this county put a sales tax on and collected X amount of dollars from that sales tax, that there isn't a mechanism that they couldn't get it to the city of International Falls, and I don't care what the hell they call it, if it's road maintenance or to keep the roads happy so the ambulance can run on them, and so they're going to pay for all the roads in the International Falls so that the ambulance can get in and out of the fire department there, and they get their $500,000 or $300,000, whatever their shortfall is. I can't believe that wouldn't work. I just can't believe it. You just got to get it a little creative. If it's for a site-specific project, say, okay, it's for the roads in International Falls so the ambulance don't get flat tires, and we'll give you $350,000, keep them roads nice. Done deal. I mean,
Either that, or you need to, as you say, it's not just a problem here, it's a problem elsewhere. Maybe it's time to reinvent the wheel and have them write a new legislation that we could do this.
that was my point. When you do something like this, that puts pressure on the state legislator to do something. That was, I was talking to a very knowledgeable person about that, and he said that's very well could happen. I really understand it.
And I will just add that I went, when this has really started coming to a head with everybody, it's 2 years ago, and they were going around the state and having senators, they had a committee there. And this is very, and I went down to Mountain Iron along with the mayor, and I just was there late, but it was pretty much the same story every ambulance district had, is either people or the money or both. And as with Mayor Wagner, there was a lot, they want to try and, even though they know there may not be any other options, a lot of the other ambulance services were also saying, we don't, if they could not have another taxing district for some, because you think we got a lot of taxing districts, like, you know, there's people from, say, Aurora and White Lakes that start mentioning all the different ones. They didn't want another one, but it, you know, to try and get that message conveyed to the senators, you know, and representatives that we need some help, you know, there. So I'm not saying there we don't need more of that, but maybe if we have a little more pressure like that, which I think we're giving. I don't think it's that they don't know, right, that this is a problem. There was one guy on there who was actually from one of the little smaller counties out west. He was a House of Representative, and he is also on their local ambulance service, and he basically was their only EMT left. So they were hoping they didn't have an ambulance call us. He's going around the countryside, but there are, and that is a view of a lot, but still, you know, I don't know what kind of resolution those people came to either, and that's because this all came to a head when Nashwauk gave up, or was on the verge of getting rid of their ambulance because they couldn't keep it running. And I'm not sure how that ever ended up. But is that North Memorial? Is that
One of the, if I may.
Oh yeah, I'm done. I just wanted to give some context. If this is on there, they wouldn't be surprised to hear this.
The story of Nashwauk is that, because you were asking how it ended up, so that's right.
I think I want to be right. So.
You know, my understanding of their situation is they had a staffing issue, which, quite frankly, the city's already feeling that pinch. And we're seeing that in industries all across the country, let alone here, with EMTs, paramedics, anybody to run the service. So we're very fortunate to have the people that we do. But in Nashwauk, they ran out of staff, they missed calls. So you have the letter. We get, basically, my understanding is, and we are getting clarification on this, is that if the city can't staff the service just by basics, what happens? It's happened before, and you get a fine, most likely. But the problem got so bad that the county of St. Louis wound up with the certificate, and the Nashwauk garage and ambulances, they knew it, imploded. It was just gone. So they went to North Memorial, and this was just to staff basic life support, BLS, in a much smaller district than ours. And North Memorial came in and said, well, we'll run it. We can staff it. We have helicopters. We'll fly the EMTs in, etc. And, you know, you're going to pay us $800,000 a year to do it. And the county board essentially, well, the citizens need an ambulance. We've already determined that, and that was the outcome. And one thing I don't want to be forgotten is that with this group at the table, I certainly hope we can work towards a better outcome than that.
Yeah.
So.
And just give a context of how the margins are in this business to try and make the way that we've been through the history of how it's all paid. And I'm not going to get too far into that. But one of the options they tried asking, I don't know who was running the ambulance, if it was Essentia or Fairview down in Hibbing. They have their own ambulance service, but they declined taking over the Nashwauk area because it wouldn't have been profitable. You're talking a distance of, I don't know, 20 miles, you know, difference.
That was in fire department.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, just some context of that. Jason's statement, this is going on all over. And we all know that now, just for concepts. Yes, we're here to try and figure something out. I've said that as just more context of what you're saying, this is happening now over, and we're here.
Just a couple questions, if I may. I mean, is the city looking to get out of the ambulance business? Or they want partners in the ambulance business, or they just want funding support to fund the deficit?
Where we're at with the service, and we can both take a shot at this, I think we'll end up in the same place, is that we can't provide the level of service that we are incurring this large of a loss in this large of an area. So that's step one. We know we need the service, but if we're going to continue the service, we have to have the support. And so that's where it's at. Look, are we looking to get out of the ambulance service? I would say no, not necessarily, but that's become a very real question over the last year. And I read my little speech of kind of where the city's at with it, and Pete and I have a duty to keep the city out of trouble.
Yeah, and to give us a starting point and where we go, I think in the city's perfect world, what the solution we would like would be a taxing district, a subordinate district with its own board, with a group with board members. They run the ambulance district, and all the entities involved would be contributing to that one way or the other. Also, I do believe that's what we're looking for. So in a sense, yes, the ambulance would be taken over by the simple terms like rural fire, right? You'd have your commissioners of the ambulance district, they'd make the decisions and that way.
As a taxpayer of International Falls, I would have a big concern, because I know you had an issue with the airport, and now you got an issue with the ambulance. These basic services that you've been given money for through the local LGA, because a lot of the people legislators don't want to see this LGA. They've been trying to get rid of it. And all of a sudden, the money that you've been given to operate these services through LGA, are they going to take that away from you? You're running the risk. Are they say, well, as long as they're not supplying this service and they're not supplying this service, why are we giving them an extra $2 million? Are you worried about that?
We have philosophical differences of why we're given that money, and it's not to run an airport, and it's not to run an ambulance.
It's for property tax relief.
It's what it's for police, fire, public works. I know
okay. But that's what I'm saying. As a taxpayer, and I hate to see you're taking a chance, I believe you're taking a chance that LGA may be eliminated, because all of a sudden you're eliminating some of the services, not all of them, but some of them that's supposed to be paying for. And then some of them legislators that have been trying to get rid of this LGA anyway, and you know that, say, well, we ain't going to, well, then let's cut back International Falls by $2 million. Now what do you do? Because now you got a deficit already, now all of a sudden you get a bigger one. That's, as a taxpayer, I'm concerned about your cash. That's a true risk. I can tell you that, because I know some of them legislators down there. They have all kinds of money. They don't need LGA. They say, why the hell are we getting it? We should cut it right out.
And if that was the case, then maybe the legislature should cut the county's pelt for not providing an ambulance. We do receive the LGA. I've confirmed with Senator Hochschild, Representative Scrubba in their office. Staff what the purposes of it's for. We don't have to have an ambulance. We chose to. We understand that.
Okay.
That's why we're here. So it's, at the end of the day, when we talk about getting out, at that point, we don't have to come to Rainier at all. And you've got a nursing home in the middle of your community. And we've got several.
Yep.
But this is a real issue. We're going to lose 100 people a year in our city limits for 20 years, per Susan Brower, the state demographer. And in those next 20 years, we're going to see probably more need in medicine. And I know that the folks representing the hospital are here, and medicine comes at a high cost, and how it's used, and we use ambulances to transfer patients or to get them to the hospital, so I don't know where the bottom of
Yeah.
is this. And
Well, I want to make it clear, I'm not here against not trying to help you guys. I just want to point out a risk that potentially could be there, because I know the wind of that LGA down in that metro area is, let's get rid of it. Why do we even have that program? And I don't want them saying, well, who gets it? Well, let's eliminate it altogether, another reason. So some of the services it's supposed to be helping, they don't have anymore, so that's another reason. But I know you guys on the service, we're all saying we need this service. I'm just trying to say I have no problem with the district. It's just how we're going to fund that district, and I don't want it put on the burden of just the property owners that are, and just the property owners that'll be paying their tax. There's a lot of property owners that don't pay taxes, and so you keep shifting the burden, and that's why I like that idea of a sales tax. And how they got to get the money to the city, I could care less, but at least everybody's paying it. And that, to me, is an acceptable solution, and trying to keep your service, whether you run it, county runs it, I don't care who runs it. I'm willing to help pay for it, but I want everybody to pay for it, not just throwing it on the backs of the few people that are paying it. There won't be 10% of, if there's 1,000 households paying it, or 9,000, I think there was a number of 9,000 taxable properties. There won't be 1,000 of them paying paying for that 9,000 taxable money. So it ain't going to be $50 or $150 per property. It's going to be a hell of a lot more than that. So I just want everybody to pay for it. That's all. To help the problem. We all get in the ambulance. We all need it. So let's all pay for it. And if you got to get creative on how you do it, I don't know. If you have to come up with a project that needed it so we can get it, they'll pay for the project. Through the sales tax. Yeah, we'll pay for that one for you guys, whatever it is.
I think to Mr. Coe's point that's not,
Then we need to get the legislature to change it.
There you go. If you said you need special legislation, that's what you need.
Special legislation, let's.
And they're going to be doing something anyway, because if this thing fails, they're going to have some special legislation to take care of this problem one way or another.
Yeah, I think
And we're
it's-
just giving them a solution. We got the money, we're going to pay for it through a sales tax. Just let us give it to the city. That's what we're asking for.
We
And I
can't
think-
keep going down the same road we're going.
Yep.
They're gonna have to help us in this Minneapolis, St. Paul. Those legislators are gonna have to redesign the wheel. They want a new model, let's make us the new model.
Well, and unfortunately, that's what I think they're waiting for, something like next year and we don't want to do that. We want to avoid being a guinea pig. But
Why not?
it's gonna. Well, I mean, no ambulance has a guinea pig. I mean, then maybe there will be some force or.
Like Dennis says, if they don't do something about it, then they're gonna have to take
Right.
it over anyway, and it's gonna cost
Some
them a whole lot
legislation
more money
anyway.
than
Right, well, I agree, but that's what they're waiting for.
and as this goes on, if that's the route chosen, I don't intend to be, I will ask the council to exit the service. Because the timeline of this isn't 2, 3, 4, 5 years. The timeline's today.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. They could ask for a taxing district right now, or a sales tax right now. The state would approve it, and you give us a project, and he'll give you the money for it. Up to his share.
You had your hand
Yeah, I'm
raised.
an idea. You guys got to figure out the method. There's a way of doing that, and maybe we should have had the legislators here too and say, well, what the hell do we got to do to get them the money?
Not under current statute. Is there a way to do it that way? Is the
And
advice
let's
we
change
give?
the statute.
That's right.
The statute that exists is the EMS taxing district,
That's all
based
right, a
on
letter.
property valuation. So we can disagree with it all day, but that's
Yeah.
the avenue that we have today. So if we want to change that, it's not just on the county to advocate the state for, but, if we want to change it to a flat fee amount, then we have to have legislation that allows us to do that. My concern is, the city's annual deficit is what, $350 a year or so?
Yeah.
If we lose that certificate and have to bring a private one in, what's the bid on that? $1 million? What is subsidized?
If I'm not
It'd be more.
mistaken, wasn't it? And that was just to take it, yeah.
It'll be more.
So I know a lot of districts are raising a lot more money than $350,000 a year to subsidize their ambulance service across the state. But they're paying Fourth Memorial and the private ambulance services. So yeah, you could go down that road and lose it, but then we might be paying more in the end.
And to build on that, with the city's portion of it, the city's provided the service. This isn't a cry over spilt milk. The city doesn't just have the burden of joining everyone and paying for the service going on. The city also has the burden of what we've already spent. And that's borne on us. There may be a way that we can reduce that over time, but I'm building on your points, Adam, that, you know, there's real hardship here that has been borne and could possibly be borne on everyone, depending on the different avenues that are examined.
Question for the county. Would the county, how did, we get two county guys right here. Would you be against the sales tax? A 1% sales tax? And distributing, you know, keeping whatever percentage is for roads and bridges and the other half for donation to the city? I mean, that'd be my thought.
I wouldn't be against it, but it's got to go through the state, like I say.
Well, yeah,
It's all the
I understand.
legislation's
We
gotta
have
be-
to jump through the hoop, whatever.
Yep.
We're not going to do nothing illegal, but there's got to be some avenue here. You know, there's got to be legislation if that'd be allowed. I don't think that would take very long. That's what I'm trying to get to your point. If they can get that tax, then they can start the process of getting it to the legislator. And I don't know what. That's why I wish Hochschild or Scraba or somebody be here. They maybe could give us a little more of a timeline or how it would have to be worded or structured. Adam, any thoughts on that? How that would work or could work?
The current loss process is you have to get approved by the state. It has to go through a referendum of voters to approve. You have to have a specific capital project with a dollar amount and how long it's going to take you to raise those funds for an end date. You know, so that's the process as I understand it for local option sales tax now. But then we have the burden of the two other taxing districts in the county that are going to be paying their taxing district on top of sales tax. So we've had those conversations in the county. Trust me, we've looked at every avenue to try to do this differently than the only path we currently have. And I know, you know, we've been there, right, commissioners? We've had these discussions.
Yeah,
I think it'd be better to have special legislation around allowing us to do a subordinate taxing district that had a flat fee option. If that's more popular to say, you know, the property owner is only going to pay $60 because of life's a life, not my property's X amount and mine's X amount, I pay different. But I don't know if there's a mechanism forward for that currently.
Does the subordinate district, is that the one that gives the flat fee option? But the 411F or whatever the statute is, that goes to a levy capacity rate, which we're into a age-old discussion of who should pay and what value, like most tax. And I think that's what.
That's what I'm saying. That's all.
I mean, that's how the Low Fork and the Black Duck district set up, based on property. That's how all of them across the state are set up, as I understand it, unless they were established a couple decades ago where maybe statutes were different under subordinate districts. But
do you know what the value of the Little Fork and the Black Duck districts are?
what they're raising, I don't off the top of my head.
My idea was there. I don't think you know, they're satisfied with their ambulance service the way they are. I just don't think Little Fork would want to figure they'd have to be paying again for a service that they're happy with what they got.
Well,
they don't want to be paying another tax to do it. So at some way they'd either have to not be taxed, or the tax that they're paying goes for, you know, it's roads and bridges or something. They're getting some use out of that money. It's not for International Falls Ambulance or district, this district.
we've discussed that as well, having it as a levy, just a levy amount countywide, whatever that levy is, to raise whatever amount of money that we're looking to raise, right? But again, that goes on the property tax value. So in order to get where we wanted to go, we can't go into that area twice. You know, they're already going in there once, and a flat fee would be wonderful. A sales tax would be even better. And quite honestly, I think we have a ton of leverage right here, because quite honestly, it is not equitable to tax $1 million house and a $50,000. Now, I know that's what we got in our hands, but that's not how it is in rural Minnesota. It's just not that way. We don't have, and to me, that is inequitable. So I would agree. I mean, I think there got to be a path forward here, one way or the other. And I'm willing to go whichever way we can get there. I mean, I'd certainly like to have some partners on moving something today and now, or even partners really pushing and legging on the legislators to help us with this issue and make us a model and get it going and get it done so they have something to show. Because I don't know that the state wants to continue to pay for it either over the long haul, to be honest, at this point in time. And I don't know that they should have to myself. I don't know that that's something that they should need and have to do. They have no control over what happens here necessarily. They have no control over the type of service that it is, and therefore why would you give evenly to those types of service? I mean, I know there's a structure and a formula perhaps, but the local control is nice to have too.
And that's the thing, this last round of support or help that they have is only guaranteed for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Because 2 years and everything changes,
Well, that's why I keep pushing that sales tax. Look at what it's done for you guys on your roads and streets and everything. It's been you'd be in a hurt bag as far as repairs and that if you didn't have that. So if you can institute this, pass the legislation that those funds are going to whatever you have to do for the legislations, but then you have the money, the county would have some additional money for whatever it had to do elsewhere, but that would be an ongoing tax, and everybody be paying it. Outsiders too, this is getting to be a big tourist destination, so a lot of that ambulance service would be, well, you know who's paying for what, so.
I know it could potentially be an option, but with Chair Gomez in the House and how she tends to legislate her committee, you have two hurdles and then unrest in the Senate committee. So if that's the mechanism for funding the ambulance as proposed, the county's not, one is countywide, they have to be opted into by a vote, as Adam suggested in a referendum. And I just don't see, and this is an opinion, I don't see any taxpayer. I see taxpayers wanting to pay for ambulance service, but I don't think they're going to vote to give a surplus of sales tax dollars to you, me, Pete, or the county and I think that's where this goes back to what's going to be the purpose of every dollar as legislated. So I think is a subordinate district and a per parcel charge more attractive than what the county has resolved to investigate with it, whatever I keep forgetting the statute.
Well, we've exercised our ability of thinking over there between as many people as we possibly can, right? So I've asked Adam, I've asked the attorneys, Ricky, everybody has had input on this, right? And to try to get to the finish line, or even a start line to get to a finish line. And that is right now, that is a start line. Adam's correct. That's where it's a hard start, and that's what we have to work with and deal with. Do I agree with it? No, I don't. I do not. But I don't know that the legislation could agree with legislators should agree with it either. I really think that this is going to be a rural Minnesota state by state problem of funding these ambulance services, and we have to have them. Our population is declining. I was at the same demography lesson that the mayor was at, and it was eye-opening. And it was eye-opening to me 5 years prior to that when I seen it. At some function that we attended in the cities. And I seen a demographer, and I thought, well, it was a demographer, what's better to do? Well, they paint a picture with the numbers, and when the numbers are what the numbers are, and they were right. 5 years later, 6 years later, we were where them demographers were 6 years ago, predicting where we are today. So I have no reason to doubt that, there's a potential and possibility that we're going to continue to have these declining populations and to further that footprint. I also think that's not a terrible idea, and I know Little Fork is not here, and I'm not going to speak for them, but over the course of time, obviously, there's areas in our area of coverage that may need help as well. So, looking at the long range, bigger picture type of thing, I really think we got to have a mechanism that works for everyone too, and that is equitable. So, and how we get there, I think the sales tax is a great idea if we can grin to bear how we get there, if that's even a possibility. If it's a hard stop, no, well, then I guess we have to go with option A. I mean, I really do think we need to move on something here to get this. I agree. I think the city's been holding the debt and holding this stress, for lack of a better word, for a long, long time. And I know that we need this service, and it's just the idea of how we get there. It'd be nice to have everyone go along, but I understand your concerns. I get the parcel concerns, so I agree with that.
Maybe we have to have a short-term solution and then a long-term solution. Maybe the short-term solution is what you don't want. A district, because after 2 years you can bail out of it anyway, correct? If we had a taxing district.
That's,
As your license is up, then we could regroup, but meanwhile, we could do that and then work towards this 1% sales tax, because it sounds like we're gonna have to jump through some hoops to do that, but I think the legislature's gotta take a good look at it, and somebody's gotta get the ball rolling, why not Cushing County?
and is, to your point, Councilor Colom, Adam or Betty, is the license renewal typically 2 years?
Yes.
So,
2 years.
what you proposed, I mean, and this isn't, the idea of today wasn't a backup against the wall deal. That's not the way that I certainly want to present this. That's not how we try.
We didn't do a very good job, Dave.
But with this, if we don't have some consensus on some near-term solutions, the council, our city council, will be discussing it and probably taking action. I don't know what that means specifically, but at this point, we're not afraid to change. We have to pay our bills. It's the way it is. And so that's the point of the discussion is
It
that
gets you back to your three options. BLS, taxes, or abandon the whole thing. But the abandonment would be a year from now.
right,
Or 26.
right.
That's your three options. Well, again, it looks to me like I know them sales. How long did it take? Were you the one that applied for the sales tax for the city?
I was not.
Okay, I didn't think it took very long because I remember when they
It's been a lengthy process, if I remember.
like a year or
indicated, yeah, it's
okay.
months and years to
Okay.
get everything moved through.
I believe it was a full year after the voters approved it. It was nearly a full 12 months before we
Okay.
were able to start collecting.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get a timeline on it. Because then you gotta, like I say, then you have to change the mechanism, how you can get that money to the district, okay? Or to the ambulance service, okay? So that's the issue that I see. There's a time frame to get the sales tax, but then there's a mechanism that's needed to get it to the appropriate city somehow. That's where I see the issue, is how we get it to the city. In the meantime, you still got to collect tax, no matter whether you collect it on property or you collect it as sales tax or whatever. I mean, you can't collect sales tax until it's approved, of course, but property taxes are probably a year out, right? If if we formed a district right now and say there's going to be a special tax on the district, what would be probably a year before you could tax
You
it?
have to have it established before July, I think, and then you can start collecting in 27.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Joan, are you online, Joan?
Sure.
So at the end of the day, they're both going to be. There's going to be there's going to be no funds until about the same time, no matter what route you're going. The way it looks to me. If it's going to be 26, you form a district, you put out the tax bills, and then you collect the money. It's 27 before you get the check. If you go for a sales tax deal, it takes a year. You start collecting it. It's 27.
Yep.
Same time frame. I mean, you got to get legislation for one, but you got to form a district for another. I don't see no different time frame. But now you got basically a 2-year stopgap in your money. Before you guys, I mean, you're paying your bills every day. So I realize the problem you're in. At 26, but even if you stop, you still got to pay your bills till 26. So you got a 1-year shortfall, and after that, you don't know what you got. I mean, nothing or whatever. You know what I mean? Then we all got a problem, or everybody's got a problem.
Yeah, we realize that this isn't going to be able to fix everything next year right now, right? Like you're saying, we got to, it's gonna take some time, but it's just having the decision to know that we're moving forward and finding out what we're gonna do to keep going
Well,
after.
I always say, you don't have a problem unless you have a solution. Once you got a solution, you got a timetable.
Yeah.
And how do I get that timetable? You see, you're making progress on it anyway. And right now, the best case scenario, what everybody's proposing, looks like it's going to be 27. I don't know what the city has determined to get by till 27. 26 comes before 27, so are you going to abandon it so you don't have no bills in 27? You know, so that's a decision the city council has to make. But what I'm hearing, no matter what route we go, whether it's sales tax or district tax, it's 27 before you have any money to. Now you might be able to get you got that stopgap. Is that for 2 years? How long is that going to last? When does that quit?
Well,
one more year?
This year, ain't it?
Yeah, and we have that money, we have a home for it in the service. And I think if the question is out there looming of what does the city do in the interim?
Yeah, it is a question. Well,
Yeah.
because you can't do nothing, you abandon, and there we are. Now it's 26 and we don't have no service. We got things in progress, but for a year we don't have
Well,
nothing.
that's it. If we have things in I would think
Different.
our goal would be to continue on if we have.
To hold
if
the
there's
license,
progress.
to relicense.
If I'm not speaking out of turn with that.
No, we're on the same page. I mean, I think that where the council is gonna have to sit with that in between. One maybe we'll put out a bucket and gold will fall down, unlikely. But it's how the city's going to fund it, is we're either going to raise taxes
At least for a year.
for a year. We may have to make staff reductions.
That's the
whatever we
question.
had
I just
to do
wanted to know.
to get there.
I just wanted to know. First of all, I set a time frame here, and it's roughly going to be 27, no matter what route we go. If we go any route,
Yeah.
and if we don't go a route, well, now you got a different decision you're going to make in 26. But should we decide we're going to go one of these routes and go down whatever path we're going down, by 27 we should have a funding mechanism in
Collecting
for
money.
this system. Okay. During that period, from what I'm hearing, the city, if we have a funding mechanism or a tentative agreement of somewhat, whether it be a sales tax or a district property tax or whatever, then you continue the service. Whether you have to tax for it or whatever you consider. That's what I'm hearing. Am I wrong? Or
No, not from my view, anyhow.
okay. I mean, I just
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're going to discontinue, why the hell we even go
All
down
right,
this
we
path?
wouldn't even
right?
come here, right?
Yeah.
If that.
We're trying to work it out, but I
Yeah.
just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're not 2 years from now here
Right.
deciding we're going to go through a tax district and it'll be 29 then before we got any funding.
Oh.
And then you won't be able to afford it, you know what I mean? So, because I'm also paying taxes in the city, like I said, so I don't want to see a one-time tax bill to do your short gap from 26 to 27. There may be a tax bill for that.
29, right.
But I don't want to see it to go on to 29 because lack of action.
Oh,
You okay? That's where I'm at on this deal. Now, I still prefer the sales tax. That's where I'm really at on this deal. But it's a mechanism that would be a continual mechanism. As prices go up, sales tax goes up. It follows inflation. The sales tax deal does. Right? I mean, as a hamburger goes up $2, you get your 1% of $2, $3, whatever that goes to. That's why I like that. It follows it. You don't have to change the district tax to everybody. It's 1%. 1%'s 1%. Whatever things go down, fine, great. Your costs go down too. I don't know, Adam. I don't know what they have to do to get that, but to me, that's really that's something that'd be right up your alley to try to figure out. Well, you got to talk to the legislators and see what they'd have to do. But to me, that makes it the easiest solution for everybody.
They'd have to rewrite the process and what's allowed.
Any way you look at it, there's going to be some legislation rewriting to do. So let them pick their poison.
Year after, it's got to be rewritten.
And one of the things, if there is a taxing district established, I'm almost certain, going back to prior conversations that I wasn't a part of, but I've heard about, is that if a legislated district is formed, that they then are the certificate holder. to provide the service. So my point being is that one of the questions often is, well, a taxing district is just a Band-Aid to provide a service. Well, there may be some truth to that, however you want to look at it. But the taxing district or the board authority could also make the decision to reduce service to BLS, or as we talked about, if it's such a black hole, so to speak, of financial crisis, well, then they would have the opportunity as the license expired.
Well, they have the same options you guys got.
Exactly.
I think that might be a tougher sell to the county or anybody else. You got a license now, you got it. If we can supply the funding through a sales tax deal, nothing changes. We pay the 1%. The county people don't want to hold a license. County may not want to hold it. They're willing to help pay for it, but they want to hold the license. You guys got it, you know. That's to me, it's just another. You got the burden. We're willing to help with the financial burden of it, but I don't know if you want to. You start administrating a board and doing all that other stuff. See, so that's just another caveat to the problem we already have. Switching owners, basically.
I mean, not really. The board can contract with us for service. We can do it for the penny of cost plus a stipend. Here's the thing at the end of the day with this.
Okay.
We know what it costs to provide this service anywhere else, and we know what it's costing us. Because all we're saying is where we're at now with the service, we can't continue to go down the path we are. And if we go to BLS, I want the community to know, if we make that decision in 3 weeks, or a week, 2 weeks, whenever the next city council meeting is, we're going to have a hard time staffing the ambulance. We're having a hard time doing it now. We're looking into that situation that has ramifications for people outside, out county, here, Rainier. The hospital suffers. We have this issue, and thank you for attending, but we have this issue where our transfers out of town, that's a function of money and staff. Every time we take a transfer, we lose money. And to bring on more staff to do the transfer, we lose more money. And under our certificate, we don't have to take a transfer. Now, that's not the situation of how the service is being run, but we don't have the staff. We used to have 6 paramedics, now we have 4. So I'm just going to go back to this, that I think we have to be incredibly responsible, as we would be with any taxpayer dollars. But if we're going to go down the road of having the service, Dennis, it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cost me money too. You own more property than most, and I know you don't want that, but...
No, let's get this wrong. Don't worry about Dennis Wagner. Dennis Wagner's here to help you guys. I just come from the hospital. I worked out a big system for them too, or going to. But I'm tired of non-contributors. You want to get this thing paid, tax everybody. Just tax everybody. I'm tired of paying everybody's bills that don't do anything. And if they don't have to pay, somebody else is paying. And I'll pay more than my share. I don't care. It ain't going to bother me. I'll write the check right now. But I'm looking out for the people that come to me and say, why the hell do they ride free and I got to pay double or triple? And that's what it amounts to. Now, where the sales tax eliminates that. I'm here to help you guys. I'm agreeing with you on this. We got to help this district. But let's find the mechanism to pay it. Let's pay for it so everybody pays. If we're in this together, let's be all of us in it together, not just a few. And I'm beside that. And I say, and that's why I keep pushing that. Jason, you were the first one that comes here. I'd like to have a flat tax everybody should pay because everybody rides the ambulance. Well, we can't do it. That's all I heard. I'm tired of hearing I can't do this. I can't do this. If we have to get legislation, let's make legislation.
We can do the flat tax, though, or the flat fee.
No, we can't.
In a subordinate district, we can.
We don't have the ability to form a subordinate district with EMS because it's not an essential service.
How is?
Ambulance is not essential
how is
service.
that-
That's something I just,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Go
That's
ahead.
the same look everybody else has.
So,
It's probably more essential than anything, but yeah,
Right.
that's my understanding with how the rural fires has the ability to do that, because we're contracting with an essential service. So obviously the rural fire board has a board, has a collection.
Would it be easier then to call the state and say, the state, for Christ's sakes, why don't we make ambulance service an essential service? That would be easy legislation. Who the hell, and what'd they say, Betty?
They're working on it.
They're working on it.
They're working on it.
Okay. But, I mean, to me, who the hell would deny that?
well, there's.
And then they do that, then you could go the flat tax, and then that's fine. But if you can't do that, then go the sales tax.
North Memorial has been using subordinate service districts in counties to provide their service. So whatever mechanism, I have that paperwork. If it's an issue over property tax capacity and how much one pays versus another in a flat fee, I bet we can all decide in 10 seconds which direction we want to go. But I think that there may be a mechanism to do that unless those subordinate service districts like St. Louis County did with Nashwauk is not a flat fee. I don't know that.
Let me bring in,
Itasca is, Nashwauk is in Itasca County.
Adam, what was the date on that they changed that rule
Sorry, for what?
for the flat fee option? You were the one that told me about that.
On the,
For a flat fee for the ambulance?
for the taxing districts?
Mm-hmm. As a flat
It went
fee.
into effect in 24, or 24 is when it went into effect. It was talked about and started written in 22, and I think it went to 23 before that.
Okay, so we kind of missed the deadline, but.
Yes.
Yeah, there were statute changes in past
Right.
years that I think counties are grandfathered in under some of the
Yeah, as
taxes.
part of our investigation, we found that out. And if we could do that, honestly, we had everything. Thank you, Adam. We had during our steering committee, we kind of had that all kind of dialed in and figured out what that was going to be, the amount it was going to be, the amount of people in it, and the amount it was going to be, anywhere from $55 to $65. Very reasonable. We're paying $90 now for rural fire. Everybody can swallow that, I think. And then the longer discussion, and I won't speak for the group, but my longer thought was enveloping all of them together, get the ambulance into an EMS status, form an ambulance fire EMS area, and it's one big area, it's one fee, it's on your taxes, pay it, whatever you want to do, and then you're done. Easy, one thing, one bill, things like that. So that obviously is not possible, but that would be a preferable method. If there's a way to get there, believe me, I think there'd be people lining up around the block to say, yes, this is the best way to do this. I like sales tax as well. I think the sales tax is a little less control. I think you've alluded to that. Too much, too little. What do you do with the excess? And that would be an issue. I think the flat fee would be fantastic if we could do that. That's a controlled issue. We got to raise it $5, you raise it $5. Got to lower it $5, you lower it $5. I think that's an annual, year-to-year type of decision with the board, obviously, of the entities.
So there's been a statute change in the last year.
No,
It's
last
further along than that.
3 or 4 years.
I don't know, the county attorney said it, yeah, I thought it was longer than that.
Was it
but I
while
don't
further
remember the
than?
year.
And I just asked for, go ahead.
No, go ahead. So I'm finally clear on that we can't just charge every homeowner or property owner $60.
No, we can't. They might not pay it.
Well, yeah, right, yeah, well, yeah. This is true. Well, then we got into collections, but yes, right, okay, so no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have an idea of, it's probably a difficult question, the tax capacity of Rainier, Out County, and the city of International Falls, the portion of St. Louis County, and if we all just agreed to do this, the legislated 444F, whatever the statute is, what is the amount of money borne from each area of county or municipality? Because I think that could answer some questions as to where the money comes from
You talking about property tax valuation tax, or are you talking about an ad valorem, or what are you getting?
If we formed the taxing district that Attorney Nagloski has researched and Adam Coe, where do the dollars come from within the district if they're based on property value? And is where I'm trying to go with that is, do we go, basically is what we're here to do. Again, I'm going to reinforce, we're here because we have to do something or else we have to reduce service. And again, Mayor Wagner, I want to thank you. We have a lot of the same ideas, but do we consider forming a district without one party? Maybe it's St. Louis, maybe it's us. That's been considered too.
Yeah.
So one of the hangups of a district without all parties involved, I believe, and I'll ask Betty this, was I believe that the certificate had to be held by the appropriate taxing authority. And they had to contract for service. So that's one of my concerns. If the city's not a part of the taxing district, we have the certificate. So I'm not sure that the state will bear that legislatively. I'm not the supreme authority on that, but that's the answer we've received.
Well, and then that's what we've looked into and told that we can pursue.
Okay.
And we wouldn't honestly even have it in our board packet for consideration if we didn't look into it legally, which we did. So I mean, I think we've got that avenue as an option right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think for lack of any other options.
Yes.
So that's the one option that we have, and that's the one option that we're working with, at least right now. So I mean, we're committed to moving it forward to see where it goes, and if it's a hard stop, well, then I don't know what to say or what to do there. But
What's that option, Chair?
the option is
clarify it for me.
evaluation based. The valuation that base that we can legally do right now.
Oh, on property again.
And property values,
Yeah, well,
yes. And I know
count me
it's, well, I understand
I'm telling
that.
you
So I
as far as support of
I
that
would understand.
method, not of the district, but of.
And I think the valuation, I think either Emma or Betty has kind of mentioned
Trying
that
to pull it up.
public meetings was 25% of the values in the city and 75% is in the county. Is that correct? That sounds about right?
It sounds in the ballpark. I think it was more of a 60-40 split, but
Yeah, I thought it was 75.
Split.
That was the number of calls, I believe.
Well, the number of
Yeah, I
calls
can't speak
is
to the call.
78.
the calls,
22.
If we're talking.
And
net
78% in the city are the calls, and
Yeah, if
22
you're talking
outside the
net
city.
tax capacity, it's, I'm sorry, yes, net tax capacity, you're correct. So it's 75, roughly 76% versus 24% is in the city of International Falls.
That's countywide though, not just that taxing district, ambulance district.
Good.
Correct,
Good
yes.
point.
So I don't have information on
We can figure
because
that
of
out.
what this was used for.
We can get that information for you.
Well, Joan did some valuations on what it would cost, we tried to raise $100,000 a year, whatever it was. But I don't know that she broke it up by city, just each city, Cooch County, St. Louis County, on how much they'd raise from each of those areas, if we did it based on valuation. I don't know, I could meet with her maybe, I think she's gone the rest of the week, but next week, to see if she can calculate that, if that's a question, but.
Do you recall the amount per $100,000 in the district? That's a dangerous question, I'm sure.
Well, she was doing it based on valuation, so.
Business tax.
Right.
$100,000 in the X, $400,000 in the X. I don't have that with me.
It was reasonable. I think it was, Mayor, it was 150,000 was $40.
Okay.
That's about what we had, I think that's what I remember. Wasn't it about 150,000 valuation? She had a sheet.
Yeah.
And it was about 40, I thought it was about $40 per 150,000 value.
Look at too many numbers.
Lots are selling for $500,000 on the lake now, so what does that tell you? It's $160 for a bare lot. You put a house on it, it's going to be, as I say, the property owners, this is nothing but a business tax, and I can't go along with that. It's just, There'd be few people paying for everything again. And I feel sorry for the businesses in town because they're gonna be hitting the stores. You eliminated the rural property, was that correct? If I remember right, some of the farmers that are in the district don't have to pay for their agricultural, if they own 2 different 40s or something, they're exempt from, or some of that land is exempt, every tax parcel. They were talking about tax parcels, charging tax parcels. But you eliminated quite a few different type ones. Like a farmer, if he had 160 and 440s, he wasn't going to
You
get.
mean in some of the earlier conversations with the group earlier, or now?
Well, earlier with the flat tax, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were based on about a habitable dwelling over $10,000 is what we did. Now, there was adjacent property that empty ag land was not
taxable. Okay,
So,
that's what I'm saying.
so you have
every
one
business,
house, you have
every
one,
house,
one fee.
every
you have-
hunting shack.
Well, if you have 4 houses,
Yeah.
it'd be $50 obviously.
Just about
$200.
everybody's got a hunting shack, so they're going to get taxed again.
Right. If their value was over $10,000, that's kind of what we had proposed. So,
And I know it's claimed, it's the county's tax capacity, but the same, methodology, if I'm on the right track, can be made that if we have this seasonal recreational property out on Gold Shore and they have to pay the tax and they're only here 2 months a year, well, we're also charging, if we didn't do that, we'd be charging them a sales tax if that ever could get to that point. So there's always going to be people that don't want to pay.
Yeah, any type of tax is not going to be a perfect, like assessments. I live in the corner lot, I get 2 of them, I know tax is really hard to administrate perfect, but this is far from perfect if you go just on property. It's too far for me. And that's why I say we have to just, in my opinion, we got to come up with something that's equitable for everybody. And I want to restate the fact, I'm not against it. Personally, I'm looking out for every property owner, every business owner that's going to be taxed 3 to 4 times, and renters and other people that don't pay are going to be riding in an ambulance for nothing. And we're going to be paying again. So either a flat tax or a sales tax, I don't know what we have to do for legislation to help the city get the money. I'm fine with that. But that's the way I want to go.
one quick question I have here, Mayor. I just want to get it on the record. Is a couple of things. I like the cost formula for running the ambulance, breakdown of the staffing, the model from top to bottom, hourly, daily, yearly. I'd like to see how it's staffed, how the phones are answered, who is staffed and when. I think we need to have that information to kind of just put my mind at ease, I guess, a little bit.
One thing I did want to make mention of when I attended a city council meeting a while back, probably a couple months ago, there seemed to be a real consensus to keep the ALS system. I mean, of course, everybody attended wanted it, and everybody does want it and understand that, and I think they understand the ramifications. Maybe they don't understand the ramifications or the BLS system, what the system is and everything, but there seemed to be a deep desire to keep the ALS system. And that's why we're trying to stay here and find enough money. Obviously going to the BLS system will eliminate some of your costs. It's certainly going to eliminate, some of your service. But so I do want to make that point. There's a strong citywide or district-wide consensus to keep the ALS system.
Yeah.
I think you got to be realistic on what it may cost them, so they understand it may cost, $300 a head or $500 a head, whatever that is. And are they willing to pay it? Are they more interested in keeping that than the police department or something? Those are city choices, or something. You want everything, but what can you afford? You know what I mean? So those are city issues, and I understand that. But I'm also a city taxpayer. So that's why I'm bringing that up. Rainier don't have those decisions to make. I got to go along with them as a taxpayer of International Falls, where I don't have a vote, but I have to pay.
And I'd like to, just to build on that as well, because you asked a question about how the service is run, how it's staffed, etc. One is, I know that between Administrator Bergstrom and Chief Manassa that we can provide you with that information. But, you know, in this, as our city confronts our future, and I think we talked about that with the demography, there's no question that we have to make changes. It's going to be a reality, or else there's going to be a lot less of us here. But there is concerns, and I want this on the record, that we have heard concerns about how the service is run, etc. I believe that we're operating under our parameters. We are interested in saving costs. We know there's a lot of talk about how the ambulance is dispatched. And I think that all those things that are tied together become a reality. And I think that relates to the fire department and how we run the fire department. That's a city deal, but at the end of the day, if we make staffing adjustments now to save money, and I think that may be a reality coming, it still needs to be for all of us. And so I think that we've come to the point that we are up for, if we can save a significant amount of money and the county has to dispatch the service, well, we can, but we're still the ones paying for it.
Yeah.
So we need to do the best that we can. But at the end of the day, we're able to provide this service if we want the ALS. With the 4 paramedics we have, I would argue, for cheaper than anyone else can. Whether we start a new service, we already have a nurse shortage, a paramedic shortage, an EMT shortage. So my point is not to harp on it, but we're in a situation now, a lot of services are in decline or had to exit because of staffing. I'm thankful that we have the service and are able to staff it. If our staffing issue becomes worse and our money issue becomes worse, we're not very far in the ambulance business anyway, because there's nothing left but a pile of money that's gone that we've spent to provide the service. So I just want to reiterate to you and to all participants that in the city budget meetings, etc., we're looking to save costs where we can. And as inflation increases, those are real things. Look at the unfunded mandates that we have annually. So
I just got a question. When you sit on getting rid of ALS, going to possibly BLS at the end of the year, what does that look like? Is it going to be a full-time staff ALS? Is it going to be back to volunteer? What type of service are you thinking of?
well, that's been, I think, an ongoing discussion of the city council, and I'm not going to put all the burden on you, Pete, but we know it will be a lot less for city residents, for out county, for Rainier. I think it's, Chief Manassa has indicated that if we do that, Chief, would it be a fair assumption that staffing goes from an issue to an extreme issue?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking. Are you going to look at trying to hire full-time staff to do the staffing, or are you going to try to go back to volunteer?
That's one of the reasons we have the meeting now, so we know where we're at, and then start planning. That's why, and we realize that we got to have a decision on that sooner than later.
And my position on it at this point, to bring back to the council, and we've all discussed this at length, is that is probably not a good decision to make of ending advanced life support for the community. But if we continue to take a precipitous drop in reserves to run the service,
Yeah, it's going to happen anyway.
then it's where it's at. And we've talked about, quite frankly, the city running it. if we take significant amounts of money, we know we can raise taxes and we already know how we feel about that. If we start taking from other services, whether it be administration, police, anything, okay, well then are we still going to have an ambulance left that loses money with no support and nothing else? And we have talked about that. And that's, again, this keeps community members up at night, and we signed up to have this be our problem, but that's why we're looking for solutions. Please.
You know, the ambulance service, there's many parts to it. What is the biggest drain on the money in the ambulance service? Is it the reimbursement rate from insurance, from Medicare? Is it the cost of your full-time employees? What is the biggest causer of this deficit?
Well, I think that's a good question, and I'll take a shot at it, and Chief Manassa can as well. The cost of the service as we run it, if you just take a look at the books, at the P&L, the revenues and expenses is, we went from the BLS model that everybody knows, the load and go, we had the EMT teams, and we went to a full-time paramedic model, and that has costs to go to the ALS. And then we have to be able to provide those ambulances with the supplies to do ALS, which we have under contract. And if you look at that cost and you remove it, the ambulance can run pretty close to the black if we make the runs we made with very little service. And I got a call the other day, on that. Somebody said, well, we called 911, we live in town, it took 13 minutes to get to the house. We're there as fast as we can, we don't have the staff. So, and the other thing, and we're seeing this county-wide, statewide, America-wide, is that people aren't going to work for less next year than they did this year. And we've had the COVID years and some probably catch-up inflation, and that's hard to keep up with or recoup, especially with the growth of the community. The community is not growing, it's shrinking. There's less people to pay the bill, and I think that's Mayor Wagner's fear in all of this.
Yeah, I think your biggest problem is here, we just have less call-outs, and Adam can testify to that. The amount of call-outs compared to the man hours to man these call-outs. I mean, the man hours, if we're busy all the time, well, hell, you'll float, just like any other business. You got to have occupancy, and we don't have enough call-outs.
Our call volume hasn't gone down.
Huh?
Our call volume has not gone down.
No, what's 1,400, 1,500?
1,500.
Yeah, but how many man hours?
Our reimbursements have gone down.
Yeah, I mean, there's a amount of things, reimbursement for each call, but also the amount of man hours compared to the amount of calls. You get more calls, the guy that's sitting there, all of a sudden he's driving, he's getting paid for that. It's a call out, it's something chargeable. You only can charge so many call outs, right? You got, 1,500 call outs, and you can charge somebody for it. And the average call out is 2.5 hours, so you can charge somebody for that.
Yeah,
but if you got 40,000 man hours,
you don't bring it in.
Huh?
You don't receive the money for what you charge out. We charge out all of the runs. We don't get the money back in. So
you mean
this has been clarified before. We don't go over our budget. So whatever our budgeted amount is, we have not gone over budget in the ambulance. We have not made our reimbursement volumes back from programs like Medicare, Medicaid, stuff like that.
So you're not getting enough money from them.
Correct.
But again, if you get more call-outs, so you can get a non-Medicare person, you'll get $5,000 to run them to Duluth.
So how do you
or something.
How do you propose we get more call-outs? Should we want
More people. We don't have enough people here. That's the deal. we don't have enough people. You just don't have enough people. See, and that's the thing, is we're supplying that service for less people. That's why the guys in Minneapolis don't have problems. They're on the road all the time. There's lots of people in them towns. And you're busy, that's all. It's like any other business.
And Mrs. Tweet asked, it's 2:45, I think we allotted till 3, but Mrs. Tweet asked a good question, and I think there's a service reduction ahead, whether it's the city or an ambulatory board, but the city is going to have to look at that.
Yeah.
That's where this is at. And in answering your question, we decided a long time ago that we were going to pop for the bigger service. It may have been the wrong decision. I don't know that, but is what we continually hear from our constituents is that they want the service. So
that's what I pointed out. From what I could judge, people want that ALS, but it comes with a cost, you know.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there.
Who's human life worth?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We're willing to help pay for it. It's basically what kind of mechanism can we get to help pay for it?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and that's it. We get right back to square one here. We're willing to help pay for it. I just want to make sure everybody pays for it, not just a few.
I'd like to see a few people ride along with those men and women that are those paramedics and see the decisions that they have to make.
They do a great job.
Yeah. And I can't see anybody else doing it for less than, what do they make per hour? What do they make?
Top is about 35.
$35 an hour?
Yeah, I'm not questioning the validity and the capability of those people. It's just like it's going to cost more money if we want to keep it.
So we're all,
and I think we're all in agreement with that. And the city voted to keep it, and everybody here kind of agreed to help you. We're just wondering how we can help you. And I just say that's fine. Let's either do a basic, flat tax or a sales tax, and we can continue down our merry road, And there's going to be problems in the future because of the demographics and that, but we should be able to adjust with them. And if we have to change the flat tax to $55 instead of $50, we'll have that ability. Or if we, the sales tax, if they're starting to buy more money, well, that's fine. It'll keep up with inflation is my thought. Hamburgers go up again. So we're here to solve the problem. I think we're here, what I'm hearing is you got consensus that we're trying to help you, but you find us a method that if it has to go through legislation, can we do it that way? Either a flat tax or a sales tax is what we'd like to see, both the county and Rainier, or Dennis anyway. I don't know, Rainier, I speak for myself here, but Todd, I think, is on the same page with that.
The people I've talked to in Rainier, of course they want the service. I mean, if you're flopping on the ground, you want someone to come and help you. But how do we get there? And I think it's been a couple good ideas, but I think we need to get the ball rolling, because if we wait another 6 months, well then we're 6 months again, and we need to, all the cities and stuff have to write a letter to, or have another meeting and have our state legislatures here.
That might be a better idea right there, if we can get them guys to come up.
Yeah, propose legislation. Write a bill.
Ready to go, we'll have it written, ready to go. We can have it written and ready to go.
I think we need
Well, that's what I'm saying. Get them here, get it writing, because we know that 2027, that's how long it's going to take, even if they got it written.
We need to do it sooner than later.
Yeah. And then the stopgap in between can be handled with a city tax, or you'll figure something out on that, but we can do that.
Adam, you had raised.
Councilor Plum said it, and just saying there's consensus about wanting to help the ambulance. It sounds like we've got 4 different entities. I would suggest getting on a call with Rothschild and Scraba and say, do they have any interest? Is there a path forward with the other options that are more favorable at the table today than the current mechanism? Because that at least gives us an answer. If they're going to go back for us or not. If not, we know what our options are. If they are, then we can look at pursuing that. But that would be a viable next step in my mind.
Yeah, if the flat ass no, well then we got to make another decision. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. But
then we got to do what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Rothschild yesterday.
Yeah.
We asked for it to be an essential service. I mean, if that changed right there, we could probably do a special assessment or a flat fee, and maybe that's our answer. But I think coming one voice from 4 different local governments that we want a different solution to this problem. You know, maybe we get on a call together to show unity in that. Maybe that goes a little further than one entity carrying the burden on it.
I get a call from the Iron Range mayors too, all the time. We're talking, but that might be the simplest. You just might be the simplest and really makes sense. Just change it to an essential service. Then we're open. I mean, that to me might be the easiest sell. Who's going to? I don't know how you could vote against that. It ain't.
Well, the sales tax will have to have a referendum.
Yeah.
You know, I go back to what the homework that the county's done on it. If you know, is what I would like to know is, and I know you're 2 of the 5, I believe, just like the rest of us, but is Rainier out on the option that the county has proposed?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
We've come to the consensus we want to help you. Just find the most equitable way of doing it. We never had an option on voting out or anything like that. We want to help. That's the consensus, correct?
Yeah.
And find an easy way of doing it. We are not in favor of we're not in favor, but we didn't say no, but we're not in favor of it. You know what I mean? And that's why I think it's more fair. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's 6 minutes to 3.
I mean, and like you said, if you call on behalf of the whole group or Jason or Adam, we can probably find out pretty much in a hurry where we're at here to make it move forward.
Yeah, tell them everybody's behind it. We're just trying to figure out how to get there.
I think you'd have a lot of power if we could get that Iron Range mayors and that all going to turning it to essential service. You'd have the whole, you know, that to me looks like we just asked for something simple to call it essential service. And I don't know how anybody can be against that. Then we can go any route we want, or a route we want. I think that would be the easiest, and it'd just be a vote of the legislator, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know what it entails, but
for them in the range, because they probably already have established a private ambulance service in the range already. So I don't know if that's a priority, but yeah, the more voices we get behind this, obviously, the better chance we might have. But I think if we've got 4 entities of local government right now in the district, in the ambulance district, that if we can get on a call with the legislators and pitch this in the next few weeks, I think that would be a good start to at least get an answer if there's something we're willing to carry.
And there's a lot of people down that legislature. Dave Baker and that, he carries a lot of weight in that legislation down there and that too. And so, you know, like you say, he can get supportive too if they bring a question like that to the legislators. You know, you can drum up the support. These Hochschild and Scraba know how to cross the lines and get support for some kind of action. That's what we elected him for. That's probably one of our biggest concerns.
Chief, does the fire association, I'm sure has
By our first meeting.
Yeah, I mean,
this too, so I mean, we piggyback this on it.
This has been fought for years. Minnesota Ambulance Association has been priority for at least 3 years. Buck McAlpin's the legislator or lobbyist down there that does that. Arrowhead EMS, which we're a member of, we have legislative meetings on that. Nathan's on the board. The American Ambulance Association has taken this on as well. All 10 regions in Minnesota have kind of fought this and banded together. So a lot of legislators that you're talking about are EMS related in that and have taken the bull by the horns on that. It's not going anywhere with essential services.
There's 14 states in the United States that have ambulances as essential services. Last year, South Dakota tried it, and it got voted down. There's actually a real good news article on it. And it shows why it got voted down, because it's an unmandated state mandate that the county, the city has to provide the service. So you have to figure out where you're getting the money from. The state's not giving you any money. That's why it fails at the state level, because the
Well, the other problem is there's two different kinds of ambulance services, exactly what we're talking about. When we talk about North Memorial, Alina, Essentia, Sanford, the bigger ones like this, and no disparities to the hospital people in the room, they're great people, but when you deal with the private industries that are mixed in with the governmental units, and it's not one way or the other, that's part of the problem, is the legislation doesn't match what a governmental unit needs, and it doesn't match what a private industry needs, and the two are blended together. So you don't necessarily have, in law enforcement, you don't have a private law enforcement firm in competition with a governmental law enforcement firm. So that's where you get into the problem. So you get a bigger health unit that runs 80 or 100 ambulances, they run a flight service, they run all this other stuff, they lose their money on the ambulance and they're fine with that. Their gig is to get the patient into their building to bill on ICU rooms, surgical suites, stuff like that. So that's a branch of their company they're willing to lose money on, and that was a model that a lot of the bigger hospitals made money on for years.
Well, I'm glad you explained that to us, Adam, but I still think we gotta try, because I'd love to see the vote, have somebody like that bring it to the state legislator on the floor, have a roll vote, and see who the hell votes for calling that essential service and who don't, for all the reasons. And if we get voted down, then we have to go a different route. I don't think it takes that big a deal to bring something like that to a vote. I wish Hochschild was here or Scrabble was here, I could ask him that, but I don't think, to me, that looks to me like might be our best chance. Then we can do what we want to do, and hopefully solve some of your problems here, or some of our problems. Okay?
Well, it's almost 3,
Yeah.
and thank you to everyone for attending. Any further comments?
Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you for
Thank you guys for
putting it
coming.
together.
Appreciate it.
And thank you to all the city, county
Yep.
staff for their research, and the hospital for being here, and those that have attended.
We're gonna go from here.
The communication won't stop here, but I think we've at least outlined where we're at today, and what that looks like here in the very short term. So.
Why don't we set up another meeting soon with the legislators and see if they can't, if they were sitting there right here, my ask could be is you take this to the floor and see if we can change that to essential service. If not, what does it take to become a sales tax district or whatever we got to do? What Mr. Cole could explain to us, Why don't we get together again with them legislators? That's what they're hired for. That's what I voted in for. We need some help. They asked me, what can I help you with? This is probably one of our number one priorities right here. So let's get them here and see if they can attend. And they're pretty damn good. And they're planning to come. They got fundraisers planned and everything else. So I know they've both called me, so fine.
If they go to essential, though, that means we have to provide it. And that means we have to pay for it.
Well, we plan to pay for it, or don't you?
No, we plan to pay for it.
We're paying for it now. What the hell's changing? We're just trying to find a way to help you pay for it.
But, if that happens, we're gonna be funding it essentially by the same mechanisms that we've talked about.
Well, that's what we plan to do, but we're planning to go along with you on that. Isn't that right? Am I right? You're wrong, Jace.
I think if it's an option on the table, we would certainly consider that as probably the number one option at this point.
Flat tax, hell, we're ready to go along with that. That's what I've been saying all along, that or a sales tax, but I'm not in favor of this property tax, because you probably figured that out by now. But, but there's another method. Let's not close the door. Let's get them guys here. That's what we elect them for, and let's see if that don't work, let's check and see what we have to do for the sales tax option. Let's not give up on it, because the problem ain't going away, but we do know we got a two-year window, and in the interim, if we got light at the end of the tunnel, if we got a plan that they're going to make it essential service, but we got to do this, and then the city can take the methods it has to do, if it has to raise a tax for a year or two until you got until this flat tax comes in, or whatever sales tax, where either one comes in, fine.
We all know we would rather pay a flat tax.
Well, yeah.
Well, we will all be in contact. Again, thank you to everyone.